Okay, so hi, beautiful people. I'm sure you've seen this meme before. I'm sure it's relevant. So for every time that somebody says AI, you do one push-up, and that's what you're gonna look like, and that's kind of what you guys look like right now. So who am I? I'm Tanya Van Gastel. I spent nearly 10 years working in tech, mostly in corporate, in startup accelerators, as well as in the European Union Chamber of Commerce. I also do workshops on AI and on bootstrap implementation. I've worked in corporate. Last year, I quit that and I started my startup. And so what do we do? Raise your hand if you're terrible at getting a photo taken. Amazing. I relate so much, as you can see, of course. So this is when I decided that I wanted to get a good photo for work. It was necessary. It was very embarrassing. It was a very painful process. I didn't enjoy it. This was the result of like 6 hours of like hair and makeup, sitting there, getting like edits made. It was terrible. So what we do at Multiverse AI is we get AI headshots. So you upload selfies, and you get a really great photo out of it, and it's quite painless and like hassle-free. And so that's what we started last year, and it's been a crazy year. We have been able to collaborate with really cool brands like Amazon, like Walmart, like Google. We got into Forbes, and we did all of that with a crazy, crazy small team. And that's kind of the wild part of kind of what AI has been able to do for a lot of small bootstrap organizations. And so all of this, honestly, is nothing. It's a tiny, tiny little drop because there's this huge wave in the startup space that has been kicked off by AI, and we're just a really, really tiny part of that, to be honest. The reason for that is because AI does an amazing job at leveling the playing field for organizations such as ourselves. So access to information really matters, right? Like if you consider that internet penetration, an additional 10% of internet penetration will boost the country's GDP by about 1.5%. That's a crazy, crazy number. If you take that with generative AI, that unlocks a huge amount of new possibilities. And so let's take a look at like 2 examples. Let's think about this guy named Walter. He's working on Wall Street. Let's think about this girl named Devika. She's working in Delhi. Walter and Devika now have access to the exact same technologies when it comes to generative AI. Yes, Walter will have some better data sets, etc., but that is not the bottom line here. The bottom line here is that Walter and Devika have access to the most cutting-edge tools at the same time. And that is honestly something that is in the startup space almost never before seen. Right, so I'll give you guys a couple of examples here. All of this is Bootstrap, by the way. So let's take a step back. What is Bootstrap? This is me and my 2 co-founders, Annika and Zishan. They're 2 brilliant, brilliant people. I think they're worth 10 people each, but they really are just 2 people. And so we've been able to do Multiverse with just 3 people total. This is a totally new thing. If you think about the past, startups used to be, we're going to raise a huge amount of funding, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, whatever it is, and then we're going to hire people, we're going to deploy, we're going to create all of these technologies. That's not happening anymore. What's happening now is people are bootstrapping. And so what is Bootstrap? Bootstrap means that you build a product with minimal resources, you do very continuous iteration, you do very quick deployments, and you have very, very lean teams. And so when you look at Product Hunt, which is, they list essentially products that have just newly launched, mostly SaaS products, the amount of tech companies that have launched on Product Hunt has increased by 300% year over year. And that's almost 85% led by AI products, because that is not possible with AI products. 83% of these startups in 2023 also have less than 10 employees. That's very, very little. That's barely an accounting department in most companies. And so if you consider that, you consider corporate innovation. And I've talked to a lot of corporate innovation people about this. They really have a lot in common. You think about, how entrepreneurial the mindset is. You think about the lean teams, the really minimal resources, and this continuous need for iteration. And there's a lot that those two fields can really learn from each other. Here's an example of an AI startup taking on a really, really large organization, right? So who knows Grammarly? I love Grammarly. I'm not a native English speaker. And so Grammarly for me is just this like, beautiful little bot that is like whispering the correct things in my ear when I try to sound less stupid than I would like to, especially in things like emails. And so Grammarly is amazing, and it should be. It has $400 million in funding. It's a team of over 1,000 people. It's a huge, huge organization, right? That's Grammarly. So there's Grammarly on one end, and then on the other end, you have a tiny little app called EditGPT. I'm showing you the Google search because it's one of the first things that comes up when you do Grammarly versus something else. And so EditGPT is a very viable alternative for Grammarly. They started about a year ago. They have 150,000 users. Their team is not 1,000 people. It's one person. It's one person who built this tiny little app by plugging in the OpenAI API into his own app, and he put it out on as a Chrome extension. Then he built it into a separate app, and he was able to do that because of the AI technology behind it. And so the fact that EditGPT can actually take on a giant like Grammarly is something that is unprecedented. That's a team of one person with zero funding taking on a team of 1,000 people. And so that is huge, and that is new, and that is one way that AI really does level that playing field. Another one of my favorite examples and one of my favorite systems that I love to work with, it's called Midjourney. They do AI image generation. And so they're one of the biggest AI image generators. Most images that you've seen that were like, oh, it was created by AI is probably made with Midjourney. They're a team of 11 people. They were completely bootstrapped. They started 2 years ago, and they do more than $200 million revenue now. Less than 11 people. Oh, sorry, a team of 11 people. So that's crazy. These icons, by the way, I made them with Midjourney. I'm not a designer. I'm very bad at these things, but I really like to create them. I think they're very nice, very symbolic. They're very easy to make also. And so you are able to do a lot of things, such as, create these really cool little icons to hopefully make your presentation a little more fun. And I was able to do that with no design experience, no design skill, no nothing with Midjourney. Second thing. So I think a lot of people feel like, AI, like, it's so scary, it's kind of crazy. Everybody's talking about it. I don't really know what to do. Am I too late? But it's not true. It's really just starting now. And I think when you look at enterprise adoption, it's still really, really low. We'll continue to see more of that moving forward, but you're still ahead of the curve. So don't worry about it. Just for your next presentation, make like icons or something. Tell them they're AI generated. People are going to love it. So why is it still so new? So I think one of the big reasons that it's still so new is because if you think about value generation, you think about learning and development, and the learning and development pyramid kind of looks like this. It's a 10-20-70 model. 10% is formal trainings. 10% is you sitting there, me talking at you. You're digesting the information, trying to understand what is happening. That is 10%. 20% is you talking to people later in the hallway and actively digesting what was this thing with the icons? What is Bootstrap? I don't get it. And then somebody else says, I don't get it. And then you talk about that a little bit more. That's 20%. That's social. That's the communication around it. But then that's only 30% together, right? So where's the bulk actually coming from? And the bulk is actually coming from next week on Monday when you're sitting at your desk and you're doing this and you're thinking about, what is this Midjourney thing? How can I get an AI headshot? Or how can I get anything else? And that is that 70%. That is you going and really actively implementing the information that you know. And hopefully all of you will make it there. Probably not, to be honest. But hopefully all of you will make it there, and then you will have completed the learning and development pyramid. And so that's where you want to go to, and that's kind of where AI wants to go to too. People are talking about it now, so we're in that second phase, and implementation is also starting. When we're talking about implementation, I like to talk about, baby steps. What's the easiest thing that you can do to think about implementing AI as like a first step, whether it's an enterprise, it's in corporate innovation, you're doing something else? Think about a corkscrew. I wasn't there for the networking yesterday, but I heard everybody had a lot of fun. So if you've ever tried opening a wine bottle without a corkscrew, it's impossible. I've tried it with all the students. It's terrible. It's impossible. You can't do it. Trying to jam a knife in there, it's the other thing. And so you need a corkscrew. And that's the only thing that you use a corkscrew for. You use it to open a specific type of bottle, a wine bottle. And so that corkscrew just does one thing, and it does it really, really well, right? So what is a corkscrew app? I have a fun acronym for you. It spells out wine. Corkscrew apps are wonderful at solving one problem. They integrate super easily into any system. They have a very narrow purpose, and they're relatively easily made or relatively easily available. And so a lot of things like, GPT wrappers are corkscrew apps. Think about Edit GPT, but they do really, really, really well. And that is something that whether you're Walter in Wall Street or Devika in Delhi, you can do that. You can make a corkscrew app because you have AI at your disposal. So implementing corkscrew apps, it's easy. That's how it works. Here are 3 of my favorite ones that I use all the time. Otter AI, Automate, Meeting Notes, Chat PDF, and then Edit GPT. I love asking this. So which one do you think is AI? No answers. Okay. I'm going to tell you. They're all AI, right? That's super fun. So all of these are made by Zaha Hadid architects who do really beautiful, iconic architecture. Patrick Schumacher, their principal architect, is a huge, huge fan of using Midjourney for their ideation phases, for making prototypes, for even showing it to clients, etc. And so they're able to very quickly iterate on the kind of like build all of these sketches. And so he says, I remain mesmerized by them. We show these to the clients, and because of the light, the shadow, geometry, the sense of gravities, the idea are so potent and so striking. And I agree, I think they're beautiful. Other things that they're doing are experimenting with different models. So they're making their own models with Stable Diffusion, which is a competitor of Midjourney, which is open source. And they're also doing a lot of work on internal transparency. So all of their sketches are internally available for everybody to see. And they do that on Discord, which is a really easy to implement system as well. And it's a system on which Midjourney lives. But of course, that's not the only way the cookie crumbles. There are some very weird things happening also in the AI space, right? So this is Unreal Keanu Reeves. Unreal Keanu Reeves has almost 9 million followers on TikTok. The kids love him. They're a huge fan. This is not really Keanu Reeves. It's short videos of Keanu Reeves doing things like, I don't know, actually, I don't follow him. But it's doing things like he's cooking, he's like doing like backflips, or like he's participating in weird little like TikTok games. If this was a couple of years ago, he would do the ice bucket challenge. Keanu Reeves does not do the ice bucket challenge. Keanu Reeves does not sit around in an apron and film himself doing this. But we have access to this kind of content because a guy out there, not a studio, not a huge organization, a random guy decided that he wanted to deepfake Keanu Reeves and create videos of Keanu Reeves cooking, sharing recipes, etc. And so he did. And 9 million followers later, this is where we are. Keanu Reeves, by the way, has stated that he doesn't understand what TikTok is, which was the best response. So yeah, bias is everywhere, right? If you look for a portrait photo of a person at social services, that's going to be a person of color. If you look for a portrait photo of a person cleaning, that's going to be a woman. That's not the only things. If you look for AI headshot generators, some of them are terrible. Some of them have not been very careful when it comes to thinking about the kind of images that they allow to be generated in their platform. And so you get things like the viral AI avatar app Lenza undressed me without my consent, right? Because this is how sometimes women are perceived in these data sets. So, you know, there's no unbiased AI, just like there's no unbiased data, and there's no unbiased society. Data used to train AI, much like society itself, is riddled with bias, with sexism, with racism, with stereotypes, with all that is bad in the world is also within the data sets, right? So some people like to say you can't fix society, you can't fix data, but we all know that there are principles that we can agree on and we can use them as kind of, our guiding frameworks for thinking about how you want to create these apps, whether they are Corkscrew, whether they are the Multiverse AI or anything else, and we can use those to kind of move forward. And these are actually outlined by the OECD AI policy. And so they are inclusive growth, they're human-centered values and fairness, transparency and explainability, robustness, security and safety, and accountability. Note, by the way, the very cute icon of the robot dreaming, that's generative AI. So let's go back to my startup, right? Because we've talked about weird weird AI apps. We've talked about Unreal Engine. What do we as the Multiverse AI, what do we as an AI headshot generator do internally to make sure that that is okay, right? Like, how is the sausage made? I'm going to tell you how the sausage is made. We're not doing this. We're not asking ChatGPT, like, how can we, make sure that everything is optimal, etc. The answer is not terrible, but that's not what we're doing. We're doing a lot of testing, though. So this is a core step in every kind of like package that we create. We do an insane amount of testing. And so here is one of the tests that you can see that we run. It's a test to create a photo with a person, a woman, wearing a blue blazer, a white shirt with plants, green background. Very popular kind of set of photos as well. And so we run these across different models. We run these across different age groups. We try to be as comprehensive in the models that we have available to us as possible, and they're always being added to. Let's say this is Devika from Delhi that we just talked about. Devika from Delhi has this problem that Walter from Wall Street does not have, which is that the data sets about her are quite traditional, right? You think about like data sets of professional working women in India, they're probably not going to be as good as data sets of like finance bros working hanging around in like Manhattan. And they're not. And we've seen that in a lot of our testing. And so anytime that we initially tried to generate Devika, she had a bindi. Nothing against the bindi. It's just if Devika doesn't upload photos of herself in a bindi, she doesn't want a bindi. So let's get rid of that, right? So you do that through negative prompts. You did it through fine-tuning your model, and you try to create and remove all of the bias out of your program. As you're able to generate a photo of Devika without a bindi. If Devika wants a bindi, she can do that as well. We have a custom program where you can generate yourself in any outfit, any hair color, anything that you want. And so that's what we do. We give you control, and you can decide what kind of photo that you want. If Devika wants a bindi, great. If she doesn't, also great. That's this baseline against bias. So try to really understand your training data. Stable Diffusion is trained on 2.3 billion images. You will not be looking at every single image. You need to figure out what your use case is and then go in and test those use cases. Set up really strong user feedback mechanisms. Users will always tell you what is wrong with your app. Yes, you need to figure it out, but they will be very vocal about it. And so make sure that you capture all of that. That is extremely valuable information for you to know what is actually happening. Thirdly, just like users will always tell you what is wrong, you need to make sure that you capture that. So be sure that you tune and track all of those incidence rates, and that you really get a grip on your accountability there. So just quick recap, best practices. Consider how a bootstrap model can really spearhead your corporate innovation. Think about Zaha Hadid. Consider 70-20-10, formal, social, implementation. After this talk, go and talk about it. Next week on your computer, go and consider, look at your notes, think about Midjourney, think about Otter, think about what is my corkscrew app, and try to move it away from there. Lastly, try to fix the sausage. Consider your baseline principles, consider user feedback mechanisms, and think about that continuous iteration. Maybe next week you want to create a cute little yellow icon. That's really easy, and you can do it too. Here's my LinkedIn QR code. Please connect after the talk. I'd love to hear from you, whether you want an AI headshot for your team or you have other questions. Thank you so much.